Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. Masayang bagong taon sa lahat sa atin. We would like to welcome you to once again this year to our first episode ng ISIP-ISAK, Conversations on Faith and Society. Ngayon pong mga araw na ito, madali pong magkaroon ng sense of hope kasi ang New Year is a good time to reinvent ourselves, lalo na after COVID. One of its, I think, major messages sa atin ay magbago tayo. We cannot continue yung old normal natin. And dito po sa Isip-Isak, we have also begun to think how we can have a new normal na talagang totoo po, yung true normal. Hindi yung old na normal, kundi yung bagong normal. And because of this, we have said na gusto po namin mahikayat ang mga young people. Kasi kami pong mga nasa first quarter storm, yung aming generation, ay aging na po. And we would like to go hand in hand with our new generation. So gusto po naming ialay ang isip-isak ngayon sa atin pong mga young people, mga millennials, mga young urban poor pastors and leaders para po sama-sama po tayo towards reinventing hindi lamang po yung ating mga sarili, hindi lamang po yung ating mga simbahan, kundi pati po yung ating ways of thinking and living and doing our work. So ngayon po meron po tayong isang guest na we hope shall be a voice, no, ng susunod na generation na ito, si Laika. At siya po ay i-introduce ni Marie and sila po nila Jail will have their own conversation. Yung tatlo po ito yung mga millennial. Ako lamang po ang medyo anong tawag nila, millennial, no? So I hope to have a good conversation tonight kung ano po ang ibig sabihin ng use of technology, lalo na po yung social media. So Marie, over to you.
Thank you, Ate Melbs. Gusto ko lang umapila. Hindi naman yan youthful ka pa rin naman. Yung youthfulness, wala yan sa edad. Nasa isip yan. Ayan. At salamat, Ate Melba. Gusto ko lang sabihin na honorary millennial ka. Kayo nila, Kawili. Hi, Kawili, if you're watching. Kayo ang aming mga honorary millennials. Ayan. Yes. Medyo spotty lang yung aking internet. So, konting patience lang po as I introduce our guest for tonight. Siya po ay pride ng Messiah College. Alam mo, Kuya Jail, very brainy tong kasama natin ngayon. Magna cum laude siya when she was in college. And then, she went on sometime 2013, I think, na siya yung nag-top ng civil service exam. And because of that, she started making free content on YouTube to help people pass aptitude exams like civil service, katulad nung nag-top siya doon. Tapos, licensure exam for teachers and college entrance exams. Tapos itong community na ito sa YouTube gave birth to what they call Team Laika, and she's fondly called as Coach Laika ng kanyang mga 1.2 million lang naman na followers. Kaya lagi ko siyang binibiro, sabi ko, well, not naman biro, pero lagi ko siyang in-encourage or lagi ko siyang sinasabihan na, what you have is not a joke. You have 1.2 people listening to you, and that's something to celebrate and something to really be, if I may say, careful with. Kasi 1.2 na isip at puso yan na pinagkatiwala sa kanya ng Panginoon, if I may say. At alam mo, very proud din ako sa kanya kasi noong 2017, isa siya sa mga YouTube Next Up winners dahil sa passion niya, sa value na create ng kanilang community. And last 2018, she's the only Filipino panelist na moderator and presenter sa YouTube EduCon. So I won't, in New Delhi, India pala ito ginanap. So I won't take much of your time, mga kasama sa ISIP-ISAK. I'd like to present to you guest for our first episode this 2021, Coach Laika Maravilla. Welcome, Coach! Magandang gabi! Coach, hindi kita marinig. Ako kaya yung, ayun.
Okay. So, is it,
Ayun.
yan. Ano po parang
Yes.
patikim ng struggles ng social media. May tech difficulties.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, but thank you for having me po. Malaking karangalan to be here and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yes. Ayan. Salamat, Coach. Coach, sabi natin we will make this really conversational. Kuya Jail, andyan ka ba? Ayan, wala ang ating si Kuya Jail. Medyo spotty din ang kanyang internet. Tama ka. Patikim ito, how it is to be.
Yes, I'm here.
Patikim ito, how
I'm
it
here.
is
I
to
can
be
hear
in
you.
the...
I know, digital age. They call it digital
Correct.
age.
Oo. The burden of our digital age. Although nasa comfort tayo ng sarili nating mga bahay, minsan nagtatanungan tayo, hindi kita marinig or nasan ka, hindi kita makita. Ayan. Okay, sige Coach, I'd like to ask you to maybe give us a story muna. Paano ka napasok sa social media at ano ba yung naging journey mo? Medyo alam ko na-introduce ko a little bit kanina yung sa civil service exam. Pero siguro it's nice to hear from you. Paano ba nagkaroon ng isang coach like sa social media?
I guess the story goes po talaga na isa rin po ako dun sa mga pinanganak dun sa dun sa sweet spot na naranasan pa rin namin yung dial-up internet, na nagre-research ko sa physical na encyclopedia hanggang nagkaroon na po nung technology. So isa kami sa mga guinea pigs pagdating sa social media setup. We were just talking about this, di ba, Pastora Marie, yung Friendster to multiply to all of these social media platforms until we have what we have now. And one of the things po na I'm grateful for was that earlier on, naging escape ko in many ways din ang internet. I remember reading books off of the internet in the early 2000s. Kasi nung nagkaroon na po ng free press, no, yung mga Gutenberg na books na royalty free, downloadable na siya online. And since I love reading, consumer ako noon. And then I also saw the strength po of learning from social media and then eventually teaching kasi I was part of Soundcheck Ministry. It's a ministry po founded by Kuya Ken Guillermo, who was my schoolmate sa Messiah. So we got together and then what we used to do was pupunta po kami sa mga maliliit na churches to teach yung church how to set up their worship team. Kasi po ako yung drummer, tas lahat kami instrumentalists, so we would teach kung ano yung alam namin. But it was quickly revealed to me na hindi kaya ang pagtuturo ng drums sa isang linggo o sa 2 araw. So what I used to do po would be, I would post mga videos ng drum covers or drum lessons sa YouTube. At that time, I was looking for a platform na saan ko ba pwede ito i-post na hindi ako magbabayad. Kasi alam po natin, di ba, paggawa tayo ng website, nagbabayad tayo. Pero YouTube happened na, okay, free hosting siya basically ng videos. And then it eventually stopped. And then nung nagkaroon na nga po ng Civil Service Exam 2013, and then, yun po, meron akong friend. Lahat po to happenstance sasabihin ng mga iba, pero alam ko it's God's hand working. I had a friend who was preparing for the NMAT, sabi niya sa akin, alam ko nung high school tayo, may technique ka dito sa math problem na to, pwede paturo. Tapos sinend ko sa kanya, sabi niya, pwedeng pa-video kasi hindi ko maintindihan yung sulat mo. So I made a quick video, posted it online. Hindi ko po sinasadya, naka-public pala. Tapos after a few days, someone from Batanes messaged me randomly on Facebook. Sabi niya sa akin, ikaw ba yung gumawa ng video na yon? Tapos baka meron ka pang iba. So doon po siya nagsimula. And then eventually more people heard about it. Kasi po, by word of mouth, sa mga government offices, yan. Nagbulong-bulungan na sila hanggang nakapasa po yung first batch. And then they created the Team Laika page that we have on Facebook ngayon. Kaya I'm kind of stuck with the name po kasi sila yung nagpangalan sa sarili nila. And then it eventually became a channel and ito na po siya ngayon. But last year was a different time for us kasi po with the onset ng online learning dahil nga po with the COVID, medyo nag-skyrocket po yung statistics namin. And we also started experimenting kasi on TikTok, which is a whole new conversation in itself. I hope we have time for that kasi there is a really drastic change sa consumership and pagiging creator din online that we saw happen sa TikTok kasi the numbers are ridiculous doon. I think we got to 1 million in about a month and a half. Ganon siya kabilis. But it took me 5 years to get to 1 million on YouTube.
And then kay TikTok, just
6
A
weeks.
year? Is that what you... 6
No,
weeks?
6 weeks.
6
Yeah,
weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks, wow. So siguro coach, pwede ko na din tanungin to sa'yo, no? Kasi isa sa mga gusto nating tanungin sa'yo is what does it mean to use technology? Baka pwede mo kaming i-orient. Ano yung mga kahit ano lang, broad strokes lang ng differences ng consumerism sa Facebook, sa Twitter. Kasi I know you also have a Twitter, and then I know that you have a TikTok. Where I first saw you actually before I met you sa Bible study natin. That's where I first saw you. Sabi ko, ang galing naman nito. Tapos bite-size yung information, very, very useful. So anyway, can you please orient us? May Instagram ka din ba? So how do you use these different platforms? Siguro, I'm asking this kasi not only for us to know, pero for our church leaders, we have church leaders din to think, no? Baka anong platform na pwede nilang i-leverage para sa simbahan nila, para sa mga ministries nila.
Again po, there's a difference in reach, attention span. Like we can dive into the details. I hope to have that conversation with you then po and the ISAK ministry, no. But the thing is, iba-iba kasi yung behavior sa bawat platform, and siguro I'm grateful na when YouTube was launched, isa po kami sa mga unang gumagamit na noon. And because I have a bit of interest sa filmmaking, me and my twin sister, may nagpo-post na kami ng videos noon pa. So this was 2013, 2011, parang gano'n. And yung observing lang po yung mga bagay-bagay. Again, may evolution na ngayon na hindi na enough na consumers ang mga tao. Meron ding drive for being creators kasi na-monetize na siya in the recent history, no? May mga kumikita na rin, may mga na-monetize na yung platform nila. Nagiging celebrity sila in their own accord, parang gano'n. So, meron na ring push for, especially for younger generation, to turn to content creation. And I think there's a lot of potential doon, especially in ministry. Kasi po, kahit yung story lang na yon, nung first person who saw my video randomly on YouTube, ang nangyari lang was nag-type lang siya sabi niya, ratio problem. Tapos dahil by proximity, the algorithm tells her kung sino yung mga creators na malapit sa kanya, at dahil nasa Pilipinas siya, lumabas po yung video ko. Na again, from 0 to ilang views. Pero on TikTok, it's even more. As in, sometimes I would go to bed, make a video, go to bed, and in the morning, wake up to 2 million views sa isang video on TikTok. Like, that's a ridiculous amount ng viewers. So, lahat po ng tao online na. Sa age pa lang po, siguro po ito, oversimplification to. Gen Z and younger, they're usually on TikTok. Bakit po? Kasi doon 1 minute to 3 minutes lang ang videos. Mas shorter attention span nila, tapos scrollable siya. So it's just a constant stream of mindless videos sometimes na I think we can invade para just to insert something naman na may nutrition po dun sa mga kabataan. Sa Facebook, medyo older yung demographic. So you have your moms and your dads na on Facebook, mga lolos and lolas. Honestly, my lola po is on Facebook na ngayon. So hi lola in case na nanood ka. And yun po yung nangyayari. So mas malawak pa rin ang reach ng Facebook, especially with the free viewership. Kasi may mga free data setup po ang Facebook na wala naman sa ibang mga platform. Sa YouTube, ano po kasi siya search engine pa rin siya primarily. So for longer form videos like your complete Sunday service, or if you have a conversation like this, maganda po siya i-host sa YouTube kasi ano lang siya parang bangko ng content, and searchable siya. Because it uses the same search engine as Google, you can use that. Kaya po sa akin, for my educational content, very helpful yun. Kasi nga anyone who types free math videos in Filipino can get to my channel. So yun po yung difference naman sa YouTube. Sa Twitter, Twitter is different kasi po, again, with the behavior of people there, it tends to be very emotional at times. Kasi nga po, shorter yung text And when meron kang limit ng characters, hindi mo ma-express siguro in full yung iyong sasabihin. Mahirap maging democratic in your language kapag mapuputol yung sasabihin mo. So ang tendency po in Twitter, medyo putol yung conversations. Another tendency po sa Twitter is because ang habol ng tao sa Twitter is shareability ng content primarily, and yung possibility na mag-trend yung issue. Madali, nakita natin to I guess in the past few days, madali to jump on a trend, madali to create something that you know would compel other people to share it, yung to hype people up to be as emotional or even more emotional, just for you to get the reach that you want. But again po, at the end of the day, we have to really step back and look at it objectively. Am I primarily a social media consumer, or am I a creator? Like, I'll leave with this statement for this question po. No? You would be, maybe some of you would be surprised sa number of screen hours that I spend on social media. Bakit po? Kasi content creator ako. I'm across all platforms. Ang dahilan ko po doon kasi I want to reach everyone eh. So the reason nga po I even got into TikTok was kasi magkakaroon ng online classes. So I had to convince the kids na pwede silang matuto online. So that was the defining moment kaya ako nag-TikTok. Pero po yung aking hours ng screen time is very low. I think ang highest ko po is 3 hours in a day. And most people usually, naglalaro po sila sa 7 hours plus on social media. Tapos po ako, my entire career, my entire platform is on social media, but I only go there for maximum 3 hours. Bakit po? Kasi ninja ako eh. So, I'm there to post. I'm there to create content. So, I will put it up there, maybe stay for a few minutes to check lang kung may mga mali, and then I step out. Because I know that social media, if I leave yung choice of what to watch, what to see, what to read on social media, up to the algorithm, magkakaroon siya ng negative influence at impact sa akin. So, yun ba, just something to think about. Like, everyone who's watching, if you could, just look at the screen time po on your phone. Like, how long do you spend on social media? And then maybe we can start with that.
Correct. Kuya Jay, ikaw ba? Anong basa mo dito? Like, personally, ako, I tend to, ngayon medyo mas conscious na ako. Alam niyo po ba, pero ako kasi nagbabasa ako, nanonood ako ng mga documentary on social media. Yun palang the way that they designed it on how we scroll down is the same effect that happens sa mga isip ng gamblers when they do the slot machine. So may disenyo pala talaga yan. Talagang they're playing with our psychology, which I think Coach Laika, you're also very familiar with this, no? Kasi nga, psychometrician ikaw at psychology yung tinapos mo sa Messiah College. So, you have to, I agree with you, Coach, you have to step back and ask, am I a creator? Am I contributing something? Or consumer lang ako? At pag consumer ka lang, minsan mas vulnerable ka. Kuya Jahil, anong basa mo dito bilang
I've got a follow-up for Coach Laika about that. Kasi maganda yung point mo, no? Para you have to decide yourself, are you a content creator or are you a content consumer? Where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line? Everybody posts. So you're in a way content creating, right? Everybody scrolls. So in a way you're consuming. Where do you draw the line? Tapos, in the eyes of, in the eyes of faith or in the eye or how we see ourselves, parang how can I decide? And I think marami sa mga kasama natin ngayon ang magiging interested doon. Or should I decide whether I'm a consumer or a creator?
Yeah. Sir Jay, actually embedded dun sa tanong ninyo yung sagot eh, which is lahat tayo, content creators and content consumers. Ang tanong would be, how conscious are you that you are indeed a creator and a consumer? Like when I scroll mindlessly sa TikTok or sa Facebook, do I choose kung ano yung nilalike ko? Do I actually report yung mga nakikita ko na hindi maganda? If I see anything na fake news, do I actually take the time to report it on Facebook? Kasi sometimes, di ba, of course, we know baka wala namang mangyayari din or it's just a drop sa ocean. Pero do I actually take time to do that? Do I unfollow yung mga people who share fake news or yung mga pages who share fake news? Like all of these things, sometimes we don't do things, we don't participate. In many ways, again, pattern din siya sa society, sa actual world. Di ba, ang social media po kasi in a way, it also reflects kung ano yung nangyayari sa realidad eh. It just amplifies things. Ganon din tayo minsan eh, di ba? Like, gaano katindi yung bystander effect sa inyo sa totoong buhay? Like, if sa harap mo merong binastos sa boss or merong hinold up or anything, are we people who step up to the plate? Because in many ways, that same behavior, that same psychology is what happens on social media. Like when you do this, sometimes people think na wala lang yon, but that is your vote. That is your vote na hindi ako magpa-participate. Looking at something na alam mo is actually bad for you, that is actually parang junk food entertainment, that is your vote. Because your attention is your vote. You sharing memes sometimes or nakakatawa naman to, okay lang yan. Di ba? That is your vote.
That's
And
a
when
very
we,
intelligent take, no, Coach Laika. That's a very intelligent take. So kahit pag-scroll lang pala,
yeah,
it's a vote.
yes,
It's about
yes,
what to consume. It's about what to create. It's about what to share. Now, which brings us to the next question. Um, are you asking us to be purposive? Are you
yes,
asking us to be decisive about what we want to do on social media?
yes. And on any form of entertainment.
Ah,
Like, I think that is what's lost po sa ating lahat. Sa age nga ng consumerism, capitalism, you can call these by many names. But the thing there is our relinquishing control over what goes in our minds, relinquishing control over what we consume, what we look at and stare at. Matagal na tong nangyayari eh. Kaya lang, sa social media, mas amplified lang siya. We go to social media to escape sometimes. Ano po ba yung dahilan bakit ka tumitingin sa social media? Bakit ka bumababad sa shopping app? Bakit mo pinupuno yung cart mo? Kahit hindi mo naman check out. Like, all of these, yung self-awareness, I think, is a very important tool. Like meditating, of course, in God's word din. Like, Lord, anong part ng araw ko ang nakakommit sa social media? I know it's a very, di ba, yung mga youth pastors dyan, sawa na doon, di ba? Laging ganun. Dapat tinatize nyo rin yung time ninyo. 2.4 hours in a day kay God yan. Yung mga ganun, no? But it's actually, it's still that. It's still grounded doon eh. And we sometimes feel na wala tayong power. But the thing is, the difference between traditional media and social media is that, again, you all have a vote. Dumadaan po tayo sa EDSA, nakakita tayo ng billboard. Wala tayong choice eh. Tama? Kasi yun yung nasa billboard. Hindi mo naman pwedeng physically tanggalin yung billboard, di ba? Pero sa social media, you actually have a choice. Like if you see an ad of scantily clad lady promoting liquor, scroll more and follow mo yung page. You have that vote on social media. And not a lot of people are aware of that. Kasi pinapresent siya as mindless entertainment, which shouldn't be the case.
excellent points. Purpose, self-aware, at saka realizing that you are in control.
Yes.
Those are very important themes na na-pick up ko agad in the last 5 minutes. Galing, galing. Marie?
I wanna dwell lang dun sa last point, no? Yung parang, it also ties with self-awareness. Pero, I was listening to Silicon Valley investor. Ang sabi niya, 10 years ago, when you would invest sa Silicon Valley, ang pag-investan mo ay bagong gamit, bagong gadget, no? In that sense, bagong technology. Pero ngayon daw, ang bagong technology is on persuasion technology. You don't buy things, you actually buy data. And in a way, sabi nung isang komentaryo, sabi niya, if you're not paying for something, then you're the one being sold. Something to that effect, no? And this happens in social media. So, Coach, like, I just want to dwell a little bit on this, yung persuasion technology. Kasi pinag-uusapan natin to yung algorithm and how a person can be trapped into an echo chamber. Paano maiiwasan yun? Paano kami magiging conscious doon? As isa pang tanong, galing kay Sir Alfred Merehia. Hello, sir. Sabi niya, how do we check how long one spends in social media? So siguro ito muna, Coach. Ano ba yung mga available na tools natin para ma-check natin how long we stay in social media? And then yun nga, how do we become more aware dito sa persuasion technology that we are being placed in?
Okay. Doon muna po dun sa tracker, no? You can download apps like that on your phone. May mga phones din na may built-in na po na ganon, na screen time. You just need to look at your settings. Iba-iba na kasi ngayon, no? Dati kasi madali lang eh. Ilan lang yung klase ng phones, so I can really walk you through. Pero you can discover that po on your phone. Like ito po sa akin, for example, yan. Sa iPhone po ganyan. Kita ba? Yan. So may ganyan po. Yan. So na-booking na ako, no? Pero as you can see po, 6:30 p.m. na ang aking social media ay 1 hour 8 minutes lang. And that is with me creating things. So yun po, you can use that. And then dun po sa tanong na about data, it's true. In a way, it's scary, pero ang problema po is that much like the coronavirus, it's scary pero hindi natin siya nakikita kasi. So we feel like it's not an imminent threat. Parang wala kasing walang embodiment yung kalaban. Like if ang virus po ay, 'di ba, life-size, matatakot tayo eh. Pero dahil maliit siya, hindi natin nakita, hindi tayo aware. It's through data po yung talaga yung binibigay natin. So how can we protect ourselves? Here's a quick exercise po, no? Tingnan nyo lang yung timeline ninyo muna. Ano po yung things that you shared? Ano yung things that you wrote comments on? Ano yung mga things that you posted? And then you can also look at your own, pag-scroll nyo po, anong mga ads ang lumalabas? Anong mga pages ang kino-follow ninyo? Anong groups kayo member sa social media? Kasi po sometimes we sign away our rights. May mga times po, for example, nauso ngayon, kasi kaka-New Year lang yung best 9, baka nabiktima rin kayo ng mga best 9 apps, no? Basically, kukunin nila yung top 9 photos mo on Instagram, tapos i-collage nila yon, no? But the thing is, may fine print po yun kapag in-install mo yun sa phone mo or inactivate mo yun, you are signing away your data na pwede nang silipin kung ano yung mga pictures ninyo na maraming likes at interactions. Hindi natin binabasa yun eh. Another thing po, mayroon limit, and I know may parents na nakikinig kaya ilalagay ko dito. May age limit po ang social media apps for a reason. But I've seen so many friends na may mga anak na 12-year-old, 13-year-old, na may sariling social media accounts na unsupervised.
Right.
And we feel na okay lang yan, safe lang yan, para lang kausap niya yung friends niya or kausap niya yung lola niya, yung tita niya. But the thing is, kung hindi rin po tayo, again, purposive sa pagmamagulang, basically binebenta natin or pinapamigay natin yung anak natin sa consumer market. So yun po yung mga bagay, and be observant lang sa behavior mo on social media. Like what riles you up, what gets you excited, ano yung post na natatawa ka. Kasi doon po tayo minsan may detach eh. Dahil ang social media is a very private thing, ikaw lang sa kwarto mo, 'di ba? At ang Holy Spirit, no? hindi ka na check ng mga kasama mo. Walang nakakakita eh. So, tingnan po, i-observe niyo lang yung behavior niyo and be very honest about it. That's a good start. Or if you want, scrap your current social media account and start a new one. Ilan sa mga virtual friends niyo ang real friends ninyo?
Coach, like, so let's shift gears a bit, no? Ang napipick up namin sa conversation na ito is that you're actually empowering us, no? You're telling us that we are not beholden to algorithms. We are not beholden to whatever choices that we made last time. So if we even need to monitor our screen time, so be it. If we even need to scrap our current social media accounts, so be it. Very good points. Let's shift gears a little bit. How can we, as people of God, make a positive difference using social media?
That's the thing eh. Like when you're fighting, di ba? Pag lagi po tayong defensive, and I know this may sound a little too radical for some ears, no? Pero pag puro defensive lang tayo, like basta anak, bad yan for you, don't listen to that band, don't listen to this music, don't watch this show. Pag puro don't tayo, ang problema nun, hindi tayo nakasawsaw sa conversation. Hindi natin ramdam yung pulson ng society. Hindi tayo relevant. I remember when I was in college, one of the things I wrote was this: if you are an eternally resounding Christian, is a currently relevant Christian. Now, what does that mean? Kasi if we are unable to reach the people and use the language that they use, what's the point? Like, are we just waiting for our expiry date para pupunta ka na lang sa langit tapos ka na? Like, is that really the purpose of us being here in this world? Are we meant to just, get saved and then leave? But it's not like that eh. So we really have to combat it by first, again po, knowing the bad side. Now that we know the bad side, the next point would be, how can we use it for good? Kasi social media is just a tool. So the first thing po I would say would be to engage in conversations. Yun naman talaga ang maganda sa social media eh. Like, if you're going to ask me kung ano po yung good part ng social media, it's that. For example, and let me use this anecdote, no? Ako po, kasi pastor's kid ako. So, yung sinasabi ng Christian by birth, no? And my entire life, since I know mostly non-Christians lang nakikinig, no? My entire life, di ba po sila challenge tayo to do missions work, to reach out to different cultures, different provinces, and stuff like that. Tapos I always had this feeling that my life is going to go that route. Although iniisip ko, paano mangyayari yun? Wala naman akong probinsya, saan ako pupunta? Like, something like that. But when you define missions as reaching someone from a different culture, that is so easy to do right now. And I'll share this, no. When I was starting out, what I used to do would be, meron po kasi ako mga sinusulat na Bible studies when I was still in the youth. Tapos dahil story format siya, tsaka very casual reading siya, Yung mga una kong estudyante sa review, yun yung pinapadala ko sa kanila bilang reading comprehension exercises nila. Now, there's this girl na I didn't know was from Mindanao. So, of course, different faith. Tapos, hindi ko alam na different faith siya. Otherwise, di ba, syempre, ibahin ko yung material niya. Pero okay lang sa kanya kasi natapos namin yung buong module or 12 lessons, hindi siya nagre-react. After po siya pumasa, sabi niya sa akin, Coach, meron ka pa bang iba? Kasi ang ganda ng mga sinishare mo. Yun pala yung laman ng Bible mo. Kasi hindi naman nila rin alam di ba? In the same way na I don't read the Quran, they don't read the Bible. So, yun pala yung naman nun, ang ganda pala. Kasi meron akong mga kaibigan ditong mga puro babae kami. Tapos pinag-uusapan namin yung mga laman nun. Tapos baka meron pang iba. So, in a way, if you think about it, I inadvertently started a Bible study in the South na hindi ko pa sila nakikita ever. So, that can happen on social media. Sa mga tao na hindi ko mamimit, hindi ko makakausap kung nagstay tayo offline. So, I think the challenge here would be, but how can I create an environment na everyone can speak out and everyone can still have conversations kahit sobrang drastically different sila. Now, babalik tayo sa difficult question, which is, and again, take this with a grain of salt po, no? Like, we say that Christianity is for all. But how true is that where we are right now? Kasi if that's not true in your family, if that's not true in your private conversations, if that's not true in your church or in your Christian organization, then we cannot scale that on social media. Because babalik ako, sinabi ko na kanina, social media only magnifies what happens offline. So that is another topic. How can I converse? How can I present who I am as a God-fearing, Bible-believing Christian without pushing people away? Like, can we find that balance? And if in case people disagree, am I okay with that?
Mm-hmm. Coach, babalikan ko yung topic ng creating a safe space for discussion, discourse, and dialogue sa social media. May tanong lang si Tim. Sabi niya, how can you maximize social media for good or for God if pinakamahina ang inspirational at educational content? Which I think tama yan si Tim, backed up by research yan. Ang mga mas nasi-share ay yung may mga offensive words o di naman kaya sa aming mga kababaihan, yung maraming skin na nakikita. Ayan ang backed up by research yan. Yan ang mga mas nasi-share palagi. At medyo less ang inspirational at educational. What are the little steps we can do, Coach, to make our content na inspirational and educational more palatable?
Okay.
Ayan. Sige
again, this is just from my experience, so I won't say na it's backed by research, but informal research na lang. Kasi I have a group naman of educational content creators internationally din. Let me share this. This is very, very intimate din. No? Pero last month po kasi, sa December, low month po yan. Kasi walang nag-aaral pag holiday. Which is baliktad kasi most influencers or content creators, high time nila ang December kasi mahalang ads, tapos December maraming time ang mga tao so nanonood sila ng videos. Pero sa akin, lowest time ko ang December. Again, same po yun. Kasi ang educational content is not shareable or palatable 24/7 or 365 days in a year. But I looked at some of the biggest content creators. Like one of my inspirations is an Australian math teacher. So isa siya sa mga nauna talaga na educational content creators. And ang viewership niya pareho lang sa akin. Like magpupush siya ng video, 3,000 views during the first week. Ganun lang. Same lang kami ng stats. Actually, mataas pa nga sa akin minsan kasi umabot ng 5,000. And I guess the first struggle is about frustration. Yun embedded din sa question. Na if I create this full show like we are doing right now, like all of us po, and di ba, Dr. Melba is here giving yung time niya, Dr. J is here, you're here po. Sulit ba? Yun kasi yung iniisip ng iba na sulit ba siya kung meron ka lang 30 views or 50 views? But you know what? And I'll share this, no? I am someone who believes na sulit siya. Bakit? Kasi ang stats on social media is not measured by the number, by the reach, it's measured by the depth. Ibig sabihin, kasi po, kasi ganun yung kwento ko Post ako isang video para sa actually hindi ko nga siya friend acquaintance nung high school. And then someone from Batanes took her time na i-stalk ako on Facebook because nakahanap siya ng value dun sa content ko. And that was how this movement started. So I don't really look at the numbers. If I spend 3 hours making a video, tas 2,000 yung nanood, masaya na ako nun. Kasi lagi ko po iniisip, kailan mo ako makakapuno ng 2,000 people sa isang venue? Like, nagpapagod tayo sa mga youth concerts, sa mga crusades natin. Pumupunta tayo sa mga barrio para, kasi drummer ako, no? Tumutugtog ka ng gabi, isi-set up mo yung drums mo. Darating yung mga nasa barangay, siguro 30, 50 people, ang saya na natin eh. Tama po. Pero pag nasa social media, parang tingin natin yung number walang value. When in fact, all of those are still individuals who chose to give their time to listen to you. So I guess the first thing would be, don't get caught in the race for numbers. Don't measure your success based on the numbers. Kasi marami pong mga tao ang silent viewers, silent consumers, pero nagsispeak sa puso nila yung sinasabi natin.
Coach, like a very, very empowering message yun. Kahit sa akin dito sa ISIP-ISAK, kasi ako as a sociologist, very critical ako doon sa race for the numbers, race for metrics, no? It has become, it's part of our own, neoliberal and capitalist society na we're all inspired by figures and numbers and greatness, no? Parang wala rin yung pinagkaiba should I belong to a big church or a small church? In a way, parang ganun yung nakikita natin. And I really like the whole point about being propulsive because ultimately, it's about having an impact on one person, two people, three people. It outweighs all the metrics. May tanong lang, si Leo Neil sa social media, sa Facebook page natin, sabi niya, but the problem is fake news and false narratives just to get likes and increase audience and influence mindset. Tapos meron siya mga example dito. Ang tanong niya, how should we Christians act on these? We probably need more ISIP-ISAK webinars to educate everyone to separate fact from fantasy. Sir Leo, we've been doing this from kailan ba tayo nagsimula, Maria? I can't even remember.
June 11, Araw ng Kalayaan. Hindi ko malilimutan yan.
And we intend to continue doing this kahit small community, hermeneutical community, but having a big impact like this. Anyway, Coach Laika, what do you have to say on that?
Ano ba? Ito po sa totoo lang, and I guess not a lot of people understand this. If a post that's fake angers you, and you react to it, you write a comment, nag-angry react ka, shinare mo, that's still interaction. That's still a positive vote on social media. Kasi ito po kung di ba nagalit ako kasi fake siya. Tapos shinare ko sa timeline ko kasi sabi ko fake to, di ba? Pero all I did for that post is I made that post reach new audience. Kasi shinare ko siya sa timeline ko, binigyan ko siya ng space. Ina-amplify ko yung message niya. So if there is fake news, honestly po sa akin, don't react, don't share, report. Kung sasabihin ng social media platform na okay lang, kasi di ba gano'n naman lagi yung content guidelines nila, wala naman doon silang nakitang mali, okay lang, basta ni-report mo pa rin. Kasi maybe, hindi lang ikaw yung nag-report. Maybe kung 10 million tayo nag-report, bakit hindi nila iti-take down, di ba? So, yun lang po. And then, meron ako nakitang tweet about this. Share ko na rin sa inyo, no? Pero do this with a light hand. Dahil po kasi kadalasan ng biktima ng fake news or the older generation, so medyo na-mention ko na rin to kanina, ang demographic nasa 40 up. So, sila yung nabibiktima talaga. Maybe look at your mom or your dad's social media. Baka may mga groups or pages na silang hindi nila sinasadyang na-follow. Kasi di ba pag nag-interact ka sa post, nagpo-follow ka na, i-block ninyo or i-unfollow man lang ninyo para lang ma-change yung narrative dun sa pag-scroll nila. So, ito po yung mga little things na deterrent naman siya. Kasi ang problema is hindi din natin pwedeng ilimitahan yung pagsasalita ng ibang tao. Like an individual like me, for example, I can't just say na wag kayong makinig dito sa tao na to kasi ang mangyayari check out lang din nila lagi. Lahat dadami lang din yung viewership. May mga, of course, may restrictions din doon kasi if I really believe that I am supposed to speak freely, that I can't rob someone else of that right. So what do? I just don't pay attention because my attention is my vote.
Pero coach, I like that point, no? Parang restraint, no? Ang isang counter-argument lang dyan, coach, na sabihin ng iba is that napalalim ba natin yung conversation? Right? So sometimes talking about emotions, no, sometimes ako bilang isang sociologist and publicly engaged academic, I feel like I have to respond. I have to respond. So kunwari makakita ako ng mga homophobic statements, right? Or mga
Mm.
statements that
Mm.
are to me very un-Christian. And hindi ba meron tayong responsibility to say no? And that's where our
Yeah.
prophetic calling comes in.
Yes.
What do
Yeah,
you think?
we do Sir Jail now. Pero sa akin kasi
Mm.
just you can do it without sharing the post.
I see.
And,
Medyo may tiyan.
you can open the conversation,
Yes,
and
yes.
I think
Create your own content.
yes, create your own content about it. Para that way hindi ako nag-react, tsaka yun nga, hindi rin ako nag-react purely out of anger, but I'm genuinely curious. Like, honestly, if something angers me po, and ano to ha, a little bit of modesty aside, I go to how, balik tayo sa what would Jesus do, right? Like, how did Jesus speak in the most contentious moments of his life? Like, if kaharap niya yung mga Pharisees, how did he react? How did he react to other people? Diba, he usually spoke in parables, or he usually spoke using examples na nasa real life na scenario. Anong around, look around, tapos kung ano yung nandun, that is how we react. Hindi lang siguro, yun yung mahirap eh. Like, when I post my original content, I have a purpose why I'm doing that. Pero when I react to someone else's content, I have to be very careful na ang purpose ko is not to persuade. Again, tricky balance po yun, no? Pero ano ibig sabihin nun? Kasi if ang purpose ko is to persuade someone, I will just add to I feel na I would just add a little bit to the noise. Like, if I get people riled up. So what I do is, like, I would post a question. For example, one of the things I posted, panahon pa po to nung early years ni Duterte with Kian and everyone else, one of the things I posted was, maybe the reason why our souls are weightless is because one cannot mean more than another. So it's, if you think about it, it's a quite vague statement. Like, people can react to that, pero siguro it's just the idealist in me. I want to believe that everyone agrees with that statement. And because it was posted, na it's a safe quote, but in a targeted time, the conversation sa ilalim sa comments was better than just, reacting to something. Or okay lang ba kayo dito? Or I usually end with a question. Balikan ko yung tanong ni Kuya Tim, no? 3 things when you're posting online content if you want. Ano po to, penso hack? I have 3 cues na I talk about. So, quick, quippy, quotable. So, it has to be quick. First few words, first line, first 5 seconds ng video, dapat catchy siya. Kasi that's how you get attention. Quippy, ibig sabihin there's some humor or at least humanity. 2 things lang, humor or humanity embedded in the post. And then the third would be quotable. If it speaks to the person or speaks for them, that is how they share the post. So if your target is really to make sure that it reaches yung maximum impact niya, those are 3 cues to talk about. Yeah, but then again, prepare yourself for disappointment.
I think we need to always have that tolerance, no? Coach, like, meron tayong nag-comment sa ating Facebook, si Kuya Herbs Tia. I know him personally. He's one of the heads ng communication ng Church of the Nazarene. Hi, Kuya Herbs. Nice to have you with us. Sabi niya, best practice for traditional communicators daw. I think what you have shared, yung tatlong cue na yon, answers his request. You have your quote, or sorry, your content must be quick, quippy, and quotable. Salamat, Coach. Coach, merong nag-text, literally, no? Hindi ko ginagaya yung sikat na komedyante. Talagang may nag-text. Hindi ko masasabi yung number, pero may nag-text. At sabi niya, meron po ba kayong corporate social responsibility projects? Kasi po, we need somebody like you who can help us. Yung presence mo sa social media can help us create platform where voters can read the data of the national candidates and all that. So I'm just servicing this kasi gusto ko lang i-nudge si Coach Laika na, Coach, meron tayong mga things to do for change. Pero maganda itong tanong ni Jason, which actually is related to that question of Sir Leonil, no? About sa CCP and how they have 300,000 paid content creators, pero we call them sometimes as troll. Sabi ni Jason, tanong ni Jason, ang aming IT, sabi niya, we can report the post. Pero paano naman po natin maka-counter yung mga troll na totoo naman silang tao? Hindi totoo yung kanilang sarili sa Facebook, yung kanilang picture, hindi yun. Minsan picture ng artista. Alam mo na nga yan siguro quick tip, no? Pagka-artista yan, pag-isipan mo na, baka dami account yan, poster yan. Pero yun nga, how do we counter this trolls, no? Itong mga nagpapakalat ng fake news. I think this is connected to what we want to ask you on how do we become really civil on our social media discourses. Sa mga usapan natin sa social media, paano ba talaga tayo magiging mga totoo at maayos na tao? Paano nga, yun nga, yung mga trolls, how do we combat them? So madaming loaded yun yung coach. Don't viral, pero you're on the same vein.
I guess if we're talking about trolls for money, as in the paid trolls,
Yes.
ano bang magagawa natin? Like, ako rin I fall prey to that. Like, sometimes, di ba, minsan kasi talaga, again, the goal is to, to get you to really pumped up and open sa debate. Kasi, ang metrics nila, kumbaga, ang kanilang, ano ba yun? Ang success ng kanilang pagtatrabaho is measured sa likes or comments or interactions. And because kahit papaano po, I have numbers So, kapag nag-react ako sa post, syempre tataas yung numbers niya. Magkaka-bonus siya. No? So, again, what I do is I ignore. But medyo na-insert yata dun sa conversation yung paano kung yung troll, hindi naman paid? Or paano kung totoong tao? Paano kung, like, same yung narrative, same yung post, same yung sinusulat on social media, nakikipagtalo din, pero totoong tao.
Churchmate mo, Laika.
Yes. And let me say something, no. Actually, I'm harsher on the real people than I am on the trolls. That's just me. Let me share this, no. Hindi ko sasabihin yung pangalan, syempre, no. At hindi rin po to blind item. Medyo hindi niyo siya mahahanap. Pero merong in the church that I grew up in, there is this dati siyang nakasabayan ko siya sa youth leadership. So I kind of know him. Anak din siya ng pastor from a different outreach. Tapos there's this post about ng Philippine Star, I think, dun sa mga tika UP na di ba nag peaceful protest sila months ago. And then under that, kasi di ba sa Facebook ko, ang una mo makikita sa comment section ay yung mga comments ng friends mo. Okay? So nakita ko yung comment niya. Kasi yun yung nasa top Hindi ko naman kailangan i-click, nandun siya sa top. Tapos nagulat ako doon sa sinabi niya. As in, ang sabi niya was parang, oo, dyan kayo, parang mamatay kayo dyan sa ginaw, mamatay kayo sa gutom. Parang something like that. Tapos nagimbal ako, di ba? Kasi, uy, brother in Christ. And I never saw him use that kind of language in person. And I guess, ipapasok ko lang din doon, no? That is one of the problems on social media. Like, dahil may anonymity, may mask, meron kang, tas yun din, na-dehumanize yung ibang tao kasi you see them as just pictures. Lumalabas yung worst of us on social media. So nabasa ko. I said right there sa comment. Parang wait lang, 'di ba Christian ka? 'Di ba anak ka ng pastor? Tapos i-click mo yung profile, yung cover photo, verse pa no? Yun lang. Hindi ko naman sinabi na how dare you say that or hindi. Ganun lang. Wow, sabi ko, 'di ba Christian ka? 'Di ba anak ng pastor? Paano kung maririnig ka ni Jesus? Okay lang ba yan? Honestly, within the next minute, nabura niya yung comment niya. So again, those are things na we can start to do. Kasi supposedly, dahil friend ko siya on Facebook, friend ko siya in real life, di ba? And kung friend ko siya, I can say these things sa kanya. Ang rule ko lang po talaga, and I do have a few rules when it comes to arguing online or interacting with people you disagree with. One of my rules is that I will never say to you on social media something that I won't say to you face to face. And because that is something na sasabihin ko talaga sa kanya, sinabi ko yun.
Coach Laika, have you ever made a boo-boo, a mistake on social media?
Many.
Many. Tinitingnan kita parang, wow, so perfect. And so,
no. No. That's the worst thing po. Na if you come out of this thinking na, wow, ang galing niya naman sa social media, ang bait-bait niya naman, ang banal niya naman, then I have been defeated, nawala yung purpose. But although I have a love-hate relationship with the Apostle Paul, I always borrow yung 1 Timothy 1:12-17 because that is basically, I am to sum up my life, yun po yung buhay ko. Like, di ba, it says there, even though I was formerly a blasphemer and a persecutor and a violent aggressor, yet I was shown mercy. Like that entire passage right there is basically who I am. Kasi po, I've done a lot of bad things on social media. I'm just grateful na wala pa, parang in many ways, I can see now na it was God preparing me for this. Kasi dahil nagawa ko at lahat ng mga ridiculous things na to in the past, now that I have this platform or this scale, medyo maingat na ako. Let me give you an example. I used to argue with my sister a lot on social media. Like, hindi, may time natapunan niya ng tubig yung libro ko. Tapos, I felt the need to post it on Facebook. Like, ngayon, it doesn't make sense, right? But a lot of people do that. Pero nagawa ko kasi siya earlier on. So, medyo na-correct na yung behavior before. Another thing po is, I'm also grateful, and baka naalala nyo rin to, Sir Jail, no? Nung nagsimula po ang Facebook, wala siyang edit button at wala siyang delete button. So kapag nag-post ka ng anything on Facebook, nandun siya forever. Ngayon kasi madali di ba? Unless na screenshot, pwede mong i-deny. Dati hindi. And because we were trained to use Facebook like that, medyo mas careful ako sa pinopost ko kaysa yung ibang mas younger. Kasi yung mga younger ngayon, di ba, popost lang nila tapos delete nila pag hindi naman totoo di ba? May deniability. Kami dati wala. So we were taught to use social media like that. Like if there's one thing na kuya harap ako kay Mark Zuckerberg kasi tanungin niya ako kung ano yung feature ng Facebook na gusto kong ilagay, that's just one thing na I would ask for Like it seems na parang walang impact yun, pero malaking bagay yun. Na hindi ka pwedeng mag-delete or mag-edit ng anything on Facebook. Kasi it will hold people accountable to their words.
Oh, you're like sa Twitter, di ba, you're, you know, cautious and conscious about what you want to post. Sige, so we have to wrap up now. Coach Laika, is there anything else that you think that we should cover, that you should, help, you know, um, process nito among our audience? Marami pa sila mga tanong, but we don't have
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry, I tend to talk really long, but I'm hoping may sense naman po yung nasabi ko. I know we talked a lot about the negatives, no? Yung nandun tayo lagi sa bad and ugly ng social media. But the thing is, and I keep telling Christians this, I keep telling people this, that if we don't participate, we won't have that voice. Like, we hear the word representation in a lot of social circles, right? Favorite word yung representation. In any social issue, representation matters. But if you think about it, sa Christian perspective, importante din yung representation. Like for the longest time, I also felt underrepresented on social media. Kasi ang Christians, di ba, dapat hindi ka nagsa-social media, dapat hindi ka nag-YouTube. Wag, bad yan for you. And I would go back to this. One of the most healing pa rin po na comments or messages that I ever received was from a kid. Sabi niya, alam mo ate, anak din ako ng pastor, tas pareho tayo kasi hindi ako nagde-dress. Kasi if you see po, ganito ako mag-outfit, no? Hindi ako nagdadamit na pambabae, hindi ako super girly. Tapos, kasi ang ano niya is very, very, very strict yung household niya. Parang iniisip ko minsan, dahil ba hindi ako mahilig mag-dress or dahil hindi ako sobrang feminine, hindi na ako pwedeng maging Christian. And then I saw you. Kami nung kakambal ko, medyo boyish kami, no? Pero we stand representing Christ. So sabi niya, kaya parang may courage ako na hindi pala yun yung sukatan. So yung that level po ng representation can happen on a bigger scale if we show how diverse we still are as Christians and how sometimes we still disagree with each other, but we leave the conversation with a solid relationship pa rin. The question really is how comfortable are we as Christians to in some issues agree to disagree, and how do we display that in public? I think that's a deeper question even before we start participating on social media. Kasi kung doon lang tayo ang term nila is bardagulan, baka wag na lang.
Very wise words from Coach Laika. Very, very wise words. Marie?
Oh, Kuya Jill, siguro quickly lang, no, since we are sharing our reflections, and I know you will share yours after my quick reflection. Gusto ko lang i-address si Kuya Jonic Banal. Sabi niya, ang punto niya is, if we become silent, do we empower this real people who are acting like trolls? I think that's important to note. There are real people who are acting like trolls. I think what Coach Laika shared is very powerful, no? Na we don't just react. Anger is such a powerful emotion, and this people who are using our psychology against us knows that full well, and that's what they're using against us. So, yun talagang ginagamit nila against us. So I think there's really wisdom in what Coach Laika said, that instead of just sharing that post or reacting that post, why don't you create your own post? And the counter for these lies will always be truth, no? And that's what we hope all Christians will do. While fake news are abounding and talagang nandyan, then we must also be committed to use our social media presence to truth telling. Ang akin lang talaga ay ang punto ko yung resibo. I agree with coach, no? Kailangan lagi nating tatandaan yun na yung resibo ng social media posts natin ay hindi lamang kung na-screenshot nila, alam mo naman sa sarili mo yan kung paano ka naging matapat at maayos sa paggamit ng impluensya mo. Kasi kahit isa lang o dalawa, tatlo lang yung nakikinig sa'yo at nanonood sa'yo at maingat na tinitignan ng mga opinion mo, you're still accountable sa pag-shape sa kanilang opinion at sa kanilang actions later on. Because even though we say that social media is a representation of the real world, the truth is there is a symbiosis, if I may say, that what's happening in social media also translates to real life. Ayan. Sige, Kuya Jay, ikaw naman. Yan ang
Ako,
aking
oo.
pantali.
Coach, like ako, gusto ko lang sabihin na nakaka-encourage ang iyong mga insights, no, na share sa amin sa gabing ito. And I suspect na people would want another session kasi para marami tayong mga hindi pa na-cover na mga areas, no. Ang isa sa limbawa na gusto ko rin maging pabaon sa atin din dito, na gusto kong i-highlight from our conversation, yung sinasabi mo kanina na kailangan maging self-aware tayo but also purposive. Ang isa siguro, I want to take that in a different direction now, and I speak as a sociologist. Yung sa research ko, some years ago, I conducted a research with Jason Cabañas, a media studies scholar who's now based sa Lasal. Bakit nagkaroon ng trolls, no, ng trolling industry? No? Siyempre, ang sagot dyan is that you have the advertising industry that creates this message and then it shapes public discourse. Pero ang counterpoint kasi namin dun sa argument din na yun is that yung mga sentimiento na naririnig natin sa trolls, actually organic din yun. Galit ang mga tao. Masama ang loob ng mga tao. Suspicious sila sa nakaraang gobyerno, for example. Right? So, if we recognize that, baka may validity. We don't agree with their position. We don't agree with the tone because we're Christian. We don't agree with how it was delivered, pero may validity eh. And I think baka yun yung kailangan din nating pagnilay-nilayan. And I think baka sa based sa mga questions na nakita natin sa Facebook, no, sa chat, maraming tanong is, parang how do we engage? No? How do we really engage? And Coach Laika has provided for us many important insights, yung WWJD question, and it raises a lot more questions, no? Paano kung totoong tao na? And I guess this is really where wisdom comes in because ultimately we are people of the truth and we want to proclaim the truth but in a way that sets people free. So doon na muna ako mag-end kasi gusto nating marinig naman si Ate Melba at ang kanyang insight bilang ating mentor of all mentors. Bago pa na nagkaroon ng computer, andyan na si Ate Melba. Ate Melba, what do you have to say?
Well, papasalamat ako sa conversations ninyong tatlo as I was listening, no? Yung emphasis ni Laika sa being purposive. Sa totoo lang, nag-uumpisa yon sa who we are, no? Sabi nga yung self-awareness. Kasi kahit ang mga Kristiyano, hindi self-aware eh. Hindi tayo sigurado ng who we are and to whom we belong. No? Kaya nga, yung sabi sa atin, ang way of not being conformed to the world is to see to it na we are being transformed by the renewal of our minds. So, ibig sabihin, yung word has to be a primary environment as against social media and everything else. I've had to make this choice. Yun yung being purposive. Kasi ang daming mga opinions, ang daming mga facts, no? Not even just sa social media, kahit sa traditional media, no? So yung mga choices natin on who do we listen to or what do we listen to? In other words, we need to ask who actually is shaping your mind? Who is shaping you and what is shaping you? A long time ago, si Jacques Ellul, merong libro na Technological Society. Basahin niyo yun eh. Matagal na yon, 70s pa yun eh, pero it's still a good ano. Sabi niya, sa totoo lang, we live in a technologically mediated social environment. Wala pang ano yan eh, mga technology ngayon, ano. Pero sabi niya, we have to be aware na tayo ay being shaped by shadows. Ang language na shadows. Kasi sabi niya, what do you know? The only thing you know is what you read from anonymous authorities in newsrooms, no? Newspaper pa noon eh, ang opinion maker, no? Uh, what do we actually, ano, yung mga books, in other words, most of us noon sabi, yun daw mga intellectuals are actually the most susceptible sa propaganda. Ang reason is because we read a great deal, no? We amass more information than the ordinary person. Ngayon na democratize yan with social media, no? Ang dami-daming impormasyon na pumapasok and you don't have to be very literate, no? To get all of these mga rumors or fake news or whatever. Pero ang maganda yung kanyang punto na in reality we are being shaped without our knowing it. And I think si Laika talk a little bit about this. No? We are actually being shaped by these shadows. They are shadows. They are not, pag lumabas ka, kasi alam ko ito, kasi we grew up sa martial law. And pag nabumabasa ka ng newspaper, parang ang ganda-ganda ng ano yung GNP natin, umakyat, tapos maraming investment. Yung, akala mo, progresibo ang Pilipinas, no? Yung mga 3 or 4 years after the declaration of martial law. Kaso ang aking primal reality, yung sinasabi ni C.S. Lewis na primal reality, isa, meron akong mga kaibigan na nasa jail. Yung aking editor, the Chronicle, si Doronila, was in jail. Ang dami-dami kong mga kaibigan na for the first 6 months ng martial law, without, charges, basta naka-jail sila. And I have a few friends na namundok, namatay, ganun-ganon. Yun yung aking primal reality. And yet, ito yung naririnig ko at ito ang sinasabi ng media sa akin. And I think doon ako nagkaroon ng sense na you have to be very, very purposive ng to whom or to what you listen to. Yung sinasabi. And that is, yung tapos alam natin who is actually shaping our consciousness or what is shaping our consciousness. Dahil nga totoo yun, we live in shadows. We live in all these mga anonymous na mga authorities who give to us facts and opinions, no? So, dapat aware tayo doon. Kung gusto natin na lumabas doon sa being conformed to the pattern of this world, sabi nga sa Romans 12. And that has to do with what? Yung conscious ng who is shaping your mind, no? Kasi doon nag-uumpisa yung transformation, the renewal of our minds. So, ang primary environment should be yung word. I have determined even as a young person noon na as much as possible, I will be shaped ng salita ng Diyos. Secondary yung aking social environment. Secondary yung mga narinig ko sa media. Kasi nga ako, I was trained in communication theory. So, medyo sensitive ako doon. And then siguro yung the other side of this is to realize na tayo as medium din tayo eh. Ang church is the medium eh. Alam yung sinasabi ng Makluhan nun, the medium is the message. Na? Kahit ano pang sabihin natin, pero yung nakikita, no? Yung visual, actually does not cohere with what is being heard. Sabi ng mga theorists, what they will see, sabi niya, will be more important than what they hear. In other words, yun daw mga non-verbals, 70%. Yung verbal is only 30%, no? Given a normal conversation. So, ibig sabihin nun, kahit anong preaching natin, kung tayo as a community, ang picture that we are giving sa mundo does not cohere, no? Contradicts all the things that we are saying. Ang what people will believe is the non-verbals, the visuals. Actually, ayaw natin dahil protestante tayo. Ayaw natin ng language ng icons, ano? Whether we like it or not, medium tayo eh. We are a primary medium ng salita ng Diyos as a community. So we need to ask ourselves, ano yung pictures that we are giving sa madla, no? Kasi icons tayo eh. Ang mga Catholics are very good with this, no? Yung mga Protestante hindi eh. Pero we are actually icons. We are actually presences. We are actually environments. Uh, as against yung mga shadows that we get sa media. Ang merong potential for authentic na contact as human beings is the church. Kung authentic yung ating community, icon yun eh. It's a visible presence of what God is about. Kaso sa totoo lang, sometimes we overrate din yung impact ng media. I think we should not underestimate it. Kasi very powerful talaga ang media. And for most people who are not conscious, sabi nga ni Laika, kung di ka purposive, di ka self-aware, talaga masishape ka niyan. Pero, we need, as people of faith, I think it's important for us na makita na ang countervailing na puwersa sa shadows is the authenticity of what we are as a community. What do they see? Hindi lang yung what do they hear. What do they see? Whether it is in Zoom na technologies, no, we see each other, whether we are in church or we gather together or in our faith-based organizations or simply as people, what do they see in our families, no? I've been thinking about this dun sa aming church na sabi ko, we used to be a church where people feel very welcome, no? They go to each other's homes, kakain yung mga tao doon, yung mga bata, mga estudyante. And ngayon wala nang ganon. Our homes are not ano, no? So, ang feeling ko, anong klaseng images are we projecting as communities? We are icons. We are actually visual images of what our faith is about. So, siguro yun lang ang gusto kong sabihin. And I'm very happy na kayong tatlo as millennials, no? Sana you can carry these things into the next generation din. It makes me want to retire na. Na?
How do you
So,
respond to that?
sige, let me pray for the three of you, no? And pray for your generation din. At kami rin na mga matatanda na, to also put our last hurrah, kumbaga, no? Dito sa message of transformation ng ating Panginoon. Let's pray. Panginoon, kami po ay nagpapasalamat sa inyo na in every age and every time, you give us tools. You give us things that we can use, not just for ourselves, but for the world in which you have located us. Yaralain ko po ang ang pagsama ninyo sa generation na ito. I pray especially kila Laika, kila Jail, kay Marie, and all their friends, all their co-generationalists, na sana po they will be truly a transformational agent sa aming lipunan sa panahong ito. And Lord, we do pray that you will allow them to flourish. Allow them, Lord, to go deep into your word as a constant environment. More than social media and more than anything else. That your word and your transforming consciousness will be in each of them. Ito po ang aking dalangin sa generation na ito. And we want to thank you, Lord, for all good things na galing sa inyong kamay. In the name of Jesus, we thank you. Amen.
What a powerful session. Maraming salamat kay Coach Laika. for really gracing our first episode. We pray na na-bless po ang lahat ng ating mga nakasama ngayon, and this episode will reach a bigger audience out there. Coach Laika, I hope hindi ka magsasawa na makasama namin.
Yes.
Hindi po. Medyo bitin nga eh. For those asking questions na lang, I'll try to answer them sa comment section na lang after this.
Sige.
Salamat, Coach.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat.
Sa susunod, let's have something on
Thank you.
talaga.